navigating the turn, nexus, tying things together. I'll do the best I can this morning. There's a lot of things going on, obviously, and sometimes it can make your head spin a little bit. But I was flying on my way here, and I couldn't play with my electronics on takeoff, so I reached into the seat pocket in front of me and pulled out I'm not promoting U.S. Airways, by the way. I'm sure I'm violating some sort of federal rules, but I pulled out their little rag that they have in the magazine there, and there was an article by the Harvard Business Review, and interestingly, I'll just pull it up here real quick. It says, in the aftermath of the financial crisis, it's become clear that the executives of many major financial institutions operated with inadequate and distorted information about the value and risks to their firm's assets. As a result, they failed to anticipate the crisis and reacted slowly and ineffectively when it hit. Perverse incentives, inadequate governance, and weak regulations clearly contributed. And as I read this, I couldn't help but kind of apply these same lessons to some of the things that we're doing. I don't think it's a stretch to substitute flood for financial crisis. I don't think it's a stretch to substitute watersheds for major financial institutions. And I don't think it's a stretch to substitute community for firms. And I think the lessons that are being learned on the financial crisis end of things can be directly applied. This is kind of risk management 101, if you will. I'll talk a little bit about levees and flood risk. Put it into some context, which I don't think is unique. I'll talk about this, but I think you can apply it at the national level as well as at the local level. As I was mentioning, I mean, in the article I read, obviously Economic Times, this is not news to anybody in this room. We're in an environment where money is becoming tighter, or is tighter. Uncertainty. A lot of people think science and technology will make this go away. It won't, particularly in regards to flooding. It'll always be with us. It's something that I think we need to learn to live with. Climate change is going to continue to change, that we should expect. There's going to continue to be uncertainty in terms of finances, continue to be uncertainty in terms of growth, where people live, how they live there. So that'll be a challenge in terms of managing the risks. Aging infrastructure, this is an issue that ASCE is a drumbeat that they continue to pound on. These kinds of infrastructure pieces, levees included, don't fix themselves. They don't maintain themselves. We need to pay attention to that. Somebody told me once they're like kids. Once you build them, you have to pay for them, and they never kind of go away. So these infrastructure elements are not something that you just have and then forget. It's something that you have to learn to work into your daily budgeting, if you will. This is not news either. The government's funding is shrinking. There's a real desire on Capitol Hill in D.C. to talk about the economy and how to balance the budget. I don't think that's unique to the nation. I think it happens in towns and communities across the country. Times are tough, and public funding is shrinking. This one's a bit perplexing to me, but it's clear as we go out and talk to people that there's this sort of binary thinking. I'm either safe or I'm unsafe. I'm either in the floodplain, I'm out of the floodplain. We hear that on Capitol Hill. Wow, that microphone is loud. You could actually hear me swallow the water. And when you talk to people out in the field, it's the same thing. A lot of people don't have time to deal with flood stuff. I don't know about you, but when I bring my car into the garage, I know very little about the machine. I really don't know how it works. I turn the key on, I turn the wheel, everything operates fine. And when there's a problem, I take it into somebody. And I have to sort of trust what it is they're telling me about the car, because I don't have time to learn all the details about the car. And when they give me advice about what to do about a particular thing that may not be working, there's a lot of things that go through my head, and I'll talk a little bit about how I think people make decisions And it's not just based on the facts. It's based on their experiences and some of the feelings they have about the situation that they're facing. And I think this is a very real issue for us. This binary thinking is something that we need to break down. Population's rising, we all know this. And litigation is continuing. And this is something that can cause have both benefits and, I think, some downsides to it. One thing's for sure, in good times and in bad, attorneys make money. There's no question about it. Good economies and bad economies, they continue to do pretty well. Interestingly, they're starting, though, to show a greater cause and effect linkages. So the science, while it still is uncertain, it does provide the ability to say, these are the 4 actions that resulted in this change in the flood hazard or this change in the flood risk. These are the 4 inactions or 2 inactions that resulted in the situation we're facing today. So I think that plays into what we're dealing with. Kind of back to feelings. They are a very real part of what people use to make decisions. And I think as an engineer, I'll admit this anyway, sometimes I don't give enough credence to those feelings. I think it's at least half the equation for people when we're talking to them about flood risk and what they might be able to do about it. And I think we don't pay enough attention to that side of the equation. I think some of our providers, particularly the folks on the technical side, will tend to do this as well. Well, I just presented the facts. Why aren't people doing something about this? Well, it's because they come to it with a set of experiences that we have to appreciate when we're communicating what the flood risks are. In terms of levees, in terms of flooding, I think these feelings come to the surface pretty quickly, particularly when you start talking about increased flood hazards. This is not a broken tire on your car. These are much weightier issues. You're talking about loss, and you're talking about loss of money, you're talking about potential loss of a job or a business, loss of a life, loss of property. These things tend to stir up pretty big emotions and feelings in people, and it's not the same thing as getting your car fixed. There are people that also are very concerned about the environment, and rightly so. Many of our waterways are polluted or have other challenges associated with them. This brings some of those feelings to the foreground. I think when you start talking about flood hazards, people harken back to swimming in the river or swimming in the area when they were kids, or walking along the stream or fishing in the stream. And these are part of the context that you're operating in when you start talking about flood hazards and flood risks. So you have to pay attention to those things. Social vulnerabilities are very real, obviously. There are certain pockets in communities that might be low-lying, that might feel that they're not being heard, or that they are constantly put aside, and this may be yet another item on top of that pile. Maybe they didn't get funding for their school in the last bond initiative. Maybe they didn't get funding to get some roads fixed in their area, and now all of a sudden somebody's telling them that they're going to have to bear most of the risk in terms of flooding. And so this brings issues to the foreground.